Today in the ass is a dick, and that's Andrew Dickman. So, Andrew Dickman, how are you today?
Very well. How you doing?
I'm good, man.
I love that introduction, don't you?
It's the best.
Day in the ass is a dick.
Thank you, by the way.
We gotta bring one in. Just right in there.
You're the first. You're the honor of being the fourth dick on the podcast.
Oh,
Well, don't judge
as
Sabrina.
long as I'm not the first.
I don't have one.
You don't know what's going on down there. All right, so should we get started with just diving into some questions about you, Andrew? Would you like to tell us a little bit about yourself first? So, fill us in on where you're from.
Well, I'm actually California born.
Cool.
So I've been here my entire life.
What part of
I guess it's
California?
I grew up in Orange County.
Cool.
And my dad worked at the Disneyland Hotel. He was the head of catering at the hotel, of course, and they wanted to be close to Anaheim, and I grew up like in the town of Garden Grove. It's a nice little suburban area,
sure.
And I mean, it was a nice place to grow up in. And I never heard of the word cul-de-sac before I watched Ed, Ed, and Eddie.
Oh, nice.
And in which I was like, wait a minute, that's where I live.
Yeah, me too.
It's like, but I didn't know. All I knew it was like a circle, and it was just like that's where cars get trapped. It's just like all of a sudden people are just passing by.
Yeah,
and,
who
know,
says
you
cartoons don't teach
You don't know
anything?
who they are.
Well, I always called it a dead end, and my mom was like, "Don't call it that." I'm like,
Yes.
Really?
We don't want to live in a dead end, please.
The cold D sack. Okay, cool. So,
The cold dead.
hey,
Cold dead
it's my hip hop name, Cool D Sack.
yo, that's me, cool D sack.
Oh, you got a rapper name.
That means you got to spit some beats for us later.
No,
He's like, no. Okay,
Yeah, no.
I'll spit some rhymes then later on the show. All right, hold me to that, guys. Okay, so you were saying you grew up in Anaheim.
Mhm.
Is that something that essentially inspired you to get started in animation? You were so close to Disneyland.
Well, yeah, actually, because my dad worked at the Disneyland Hotel, we were a Disney family. He would get like free swag all the time from the hotel, like when they used to do that. It slowly started to dwindle away, where it's like we would get like a bunch of stuff from Disney, and he would just bring it home, and he would say like, "Oh yes, I got this for research because we're having a catering party at some point." And that's where I kind of like we had the Disney Channel as well when I was growing up, so I was watching a lot of that. I grew up on I grew up more with Garfield than I did with a lot of Disney stuff.
Garfield, wow.
Yeah, which is really funny because it's like when people ask me, it's like, "What's your biggest influence?" I always say it's like, "Well, Garfield."
Garfield and Friends.
Yeah, and I literally have like tons of papers of Garfield drawings, from that my parents apparently kept. So it was like, I guess that was my biggest influence, and I also loved the cartoon show, which was really great. And,
The cartoon show was
yeah,
exceptional.
I actually like the cartoon show was a lot better than the comic itself because I just remember watching that constantly, along with like DuckTales and Gummy Bears and stuff like that.
All right,
So,
cool. So,
but
like-
yeah, no, I was a Disney kid, and we would get invited to screenings. I remember I got to see Roger Rabbit at the hotel. And I don't think I was supposed to be there, but my dad was just like, "Oh, it's a cartoon." I was like, let's watch it. And it was just like, this is the most amazing thing I've ever seen. And I was like, I think probably 5 years old or something.
Yeah, I was about to ask how old you were. So
Yeah,
you were 5 years old
that was
watching
80
Roger Rabbit.
that was
and I
87.
think I think at that point was where I started to just think like I gotta draw a lot. I was drawing in like books. Like I would draw in my childhood books. And my mom would come up to me and it says like, "Don't stop, don't draw on those." And then she would like take away the pen, and then give me a pencil. And it's like, "Here, draw it with a pencil. That way you can erase it later on."
So when you're saying childhood books, you're talking about like books that you'd actually be reading with no
Yes.
pictures in them.
Yeah,
and you would
yeah,
be drawing
like,
on top of the
like
words.
like Dr. Seuss stuff and
Okay,
all that.
cool.
And I was like,
She
I would
wasn't-
draw my own stuff.
She wasn't trying to preserve the activity books. Like, you don't do those activities. Those are not for doing.
Well, the thing
Don't
is,
you color inside that coloring book?
I didn't. I know that I had activity books, but I would rarely draw in those compared to
Same.
the other books. And I would just like, I would add my own little characters to the other characters that were in there. So
That's
it's like
cool.
whatever was in there, it's like I always just added, like, I named him Joe, which would just like, he's just a stick figure. That's, call him
That's how a
Joe,
lot of people
why
start
not?
out.
So-
Stick figure Joe.
But yeah,
Yeah.
that was my character at the time, and I added him to that little scenario, and just it
That's
just
pretty
became
cool.
that.
Yeah.
And then but my mom would tell me, it's like, no, please just draw it with a pencil. That way you can erase it later.
At least
on.
she didn't stop you from drawing altogether. I mean, in a
Yeah.
way, I'm
well,
sure
that's
that helped.
Yeah, well, that's the thing. It's like my parents were really. They really helped me along with like they always really enjoyed the fact that I liked to draw. They didn't really know anything like about career wise. They just knew it was like something that made me happy. So whenever I would get in trouble at school or something, I would draw on like my homework and everything. The teacher would like talk to my parents and say like, you gotta tell him to stop drawing. And he's like, no, you don't understand. That's how he concentrates. It's like that's how he pays attention. If he's drawing, he's not paying attention. So that was just one of the things that I really thank my parents for. I mean,
I have a
I
question.
wouldn't have drawn to this day.
When did that change? Like, what was the day like when they found out that you actually could make money off of this?
Okay, so that I remember this vividly because Aladdin came out when I was like around 10 years old, I believe.
Is that 94?
Yeah,
90.
Yeah, 94 would make
94?
sense.
yeah. But I remember we saw a screening of Aladdin, and I love that movie. We actually saw it at the Lincoln Theater at
Sure.
Disneyland.
Yeah.
That's where they screened it for the
Oh, wow.
employees at the hotel.
Cool.
Which was great, and I loved the genie. Genie was like the best thing about that movie.
R.I.P.
And-
Robin
and-
Williams.
Hands down, man.
Of course, Robin Williams.
Eric
But
Goldberg did the animation for
yes,
that. Yeah.
and my dad found out that Eric Goldberg. He just knew him as an animator. They just said it's like, oh, an animator's going to be at the hotel, and he's going to do like a little, I guess like talk
Q&A?
or panel or Q&A at the hotel. And he says like, why don't you go ahead and meet this guy? He drew the genie, and when I was there at the panel, and we were he was just like discussing and showing off all these like old. Pencil tests
Oh,
of
wow.
the genie.
That must have been
You know,
cool.
Just of like Robin Williams' old stand up and stuff like that. And I thought that was like that was amazing to see. And I found out later he got in trouble for it.
So they did. You're telling me they did pencil? They took audio from Robin Williams' stand up and did genie pencil tests to that stand up.
Like
Wow,
early,
that's pretty cool.
Like early concept design genie. It wasn't like the original blue genie that the movie.
I would love to
finally
see
came
that. I hope that's on YouTube somewhere.
And maybe I have no
got
idea.
in
Like I
trouble the
said,
first
he got
time.
he actually I think he got like in trouble a lot of times for just showing off like pencil tests of whatever he does. But he likes to show it off. I mean, why not?
I know. It's a
Beautiful.
very
So-
cool thing to
About.
show.
But
yeah.
that right there was where I found out like, oh my god, there's a job to this. There's an actual job, because before, when I was in school, the only thing you could really kind of aspire to be was fireman, astronaut, president. Those were the three options, and
Wait,
those
what
were
else
the
is
only
there?
things I remember. Like at school, we were
Doctor.
saying there was like a homework that we had to say, like, what did you want to be when you grow up?
Yeah.
And those were like the three options, and for me, I was just like,
they actually had a list.
no, they didn't have a list, but that's the
Oh.
only things that would show up from
Yeah.
kids, and I just thought,
Especially
like,
at 5 years old.
yeah. So
Not
it's
many
like, I
people
don't
say they
know what
want
I
to be
wanna
an animator
It's
at
just-
5.
and it's kind of early. Like I think it was second grade or something like
Okay.
that. So it's like,
Oh.
yeah, but it was right there when I was talking to Eric Goldberg, and I still have his signature.
This is
like,
age
framed.
like second grade, age 7-ish kind of thing.
So
You
it's-
were.
Oh no,
talking
I
to
was
him?
like 10.
Like
You were 10?
fourth grade.
Okay,
yeah.
cool.
That's where I met him, and he gave me like a signed drawing, which I still have framed at home.
Wow. That's
And
pretty cool.
right there was just, I was like, I'm gonna be an animator. I want to be in animation, because that's like finally something I can do with the talent I have.
That's
So-
wonderful. Wow.
So like before, it was just like I'm just drawing. I just love doing it. And now it's like I have a goal in mind, where it's
Yeah.
like, and that was also where my parents were just like, well, we got to find out ways to get this kid motivated to, and they would be like after school activity classes, stuff like that. You know, like
For sure, yeah. Drawing
one was
classes
GATE,
and whatnot.
GATE. Do you know what that
The
is?
gate program?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I was in one of those.
I was in that.
Yeah, and
It's like for smart kids.
and I.
Quote unquote.
No. No, it isn't.
Smart kids. I mean, I think it's more gifted kids because it's like, you know, you're good at drawing, and now we have like drawing classes and There was an animation class for GATE.
Really?
And that's where I drew my first cartoon in an Amiga computer.
Wow, cool.
You know that
Yeah, I remember
Walt
the
Disney, the animation program that they had on that?
Oh, I don't remember.
Yeah, it was like I drew on a mouse.
What year was this?
The entire animation. I think it was like a
Wow.
year after Aladdin came out. So.
Oh wow! So this was like '95. You're animating on a computer in 1995.
Yeah, before that I was like drawing with a mouse on Mario Paint.
Oh,
That was like my first introduction to animation.
Yeah.
Actually, just drawing.
It's
on
a lot
that.
of ours, yeah.
Yeah,
For sure,
so
yeah.
and then on an Amiga computer, which is like even harder to kind of control. And I still have a video of this cartoon, and it's so wiggly and everything. But it's it was my first cartoon. It was.
You got to
fun
save
work
that
on.
forever. Your first cartoon. That's
yeah,
great.
Exactly.
So Mario Paint, Amiga computers. Did you do little flip books as well?
Yeah, I had flip books. I would like just take stacks of paper and just staple it. And because I was also into like comic books and stuff, so it's like I figured it's like if I want to make something, I can also make a comic book. And I just drew on these stacks of paper that I just stapled, and it would be like 3 pages in, and then the rest would be like nothing because I wanted to move on to the next thing. So it was just like stacks of paper that were stapled together
With
and it's
3
just-
drawings
with
in them.
3 drawings, and that's about it.
That says a lot. That's
Yeah.
cool. That's pretty neat. So it seems like your biggest inspirations as far as getting into the animation industry were probably Aladdin and Garfield.
Yes.
2 very different ends of the spectrum.
Exactly.
That's really cool. Those
but
are,
like a similar voice archetype.
In a sense.
Yeah, because you had Lorenzo Music and then Robin Williams. I was like a very cool, savvy, and kind of guy.
Yeah, and I love those guys. I love Lorenzo Music. He was such a.
Cool. Well, thank you again, Andrew, for being here. We
Oh,
sincerely
thank you for
appreciate
having
you
me.
coming.
Oh,
thank you
thank you
so
so
much,
much.
man.
Yeah.
And hopefully, oh, me six. Hopefully, there's some.
I work with you.
Yeah.
Hopefully, through that anarchy, there are some wise words of inspiration for you. Anybody who's aspiring to be a animation industry professional, feel free to hit any of us up on our the links that we have down in the description, on our Twitters, on our Instagrams, on our Facebook, whatever. Hit us up, like us, subscribe, and we will see you guys next time in the ass.